The thing to understand about contracts is that, well, they are created by people, and people are, well, they are people, which means we have our own shortcomings, and those are not going to be missing in a contract. So there are situations where somebody will say something, and then they won't follow through, or somebody will promise something, and then they won't follow through, which means breach as far as the contracts are concerned. Now the question is, if somebody breaches a contract, or rather in this case, if somebody breaches a sale of goods contract, what remedy will be available to you as the seller? In this video, we talk about the remedies available in sales of goods contract. The remedies as far as sale of goods contract can be divided, or rather can be classified into two. We have real remedies. These are the kind of remedies that you don't have to go to court for. Okay, you can enforce them. They are remedies enforced against the goods. And then we have personal remedies, which are the kind of remedies that you must go to court for. So let's start with the first one. Rights of unpaid seller against the goods. In short, real remedies. A seller will have a number of remedies as far as, this one is concerned at their disposal. The first one being lien. Lien simply means a right to remain in possession of goods until payment of price has been exercised. Lien is exercisable in the following circumstances: where goods have not been sold on credit, where goods have been sold on credit but the term of credit has expired, and number 3, if the buyer becomes insolvent. Of course, it's not always the case that you're going to enjoy this right forever, because there are situations where you as the seller, you end up losing your right to lien. So the circumstances that can make you lose that right, right to hold on to these goods until the buyer pay you, include: number 1, you've waived the right; number 2, the buyer or his agent obtained lawful possession of the goods; number 3, if the seller delivers the goods to a common carrier for transmission to the buyer without reserving the right of disposal. At times, you've already started delivering the goods, and that's when you realize that the buyer is not really going to pay you. So in this case, you have option 2, stoppage in transit. This is the right of unpaid seller who has already parted with possession of the goods, which are now in the course of transit to the buyer. The idea is to stop the goods while they are in transit, and in doing so, the seller resumes possession of the goods until the payment of the price. Of course, this right is only going to be exercised if, number 1, the buyer becomes insolvent, that is, they're not capable of paying their debt. The goods are in transit, because otherwise, if you already have the goods, then there is nothing to stop. There is no transit to stop. So you're just going to exercise your right of lien. Now, the issue of goods being in transit, you can lose your right to stoppage in transit if the buyer or his agent intercepts the goods before arrival at the agreed destination, meaning they're already in possession of the buyer. Now, if you take them from the buyer, then that can actually qualify as trespass, and that is torts. That is under the law of torts. So at that point, you can only sue for recovery of price. I think that is what usually happens if the guy intends to con you. Now, number 2, upon arrival, the carrier notifies the buyer or his agent that he holds the goods on his or her behalf. If the carrier does that, then the goods have already been delivered. Remember, delivery doesn't really mean that the buyer is now in possession of the goods. It could be a carrier, because sometimes that is what you agreed to. You said, these goods, if you're the seller, you say that I'm going to deliver them to a carrier, and then the carrier will deliver them to you. So if the goods have been delivered to the carrier, then the seller is considered to have delivered the goods. At that point, you can't stop them in transit because the transit is over. And number last, the carrier wrongfully neglects or refuses to deliver the goods to the buyer or his agent. Either way, it doesn't matter, because the goods are already with the carrier, so you can't stop them in transit. Now, the other remedy that can be available to the seller is the right of resale. Unpaid seller in possession of the buyer's goods is entitled to resell them to recover the price. A resale of goods by the seller passes a good title to the buyer in the following circumstance: where the goods are of a perishable nature; number 2, where the right of resale is expressly reserved by the contract; and number 3, where the seller notifies the buyer of his intention to resell the goods, but the buyer does not pay or tender the price within a reasonable time. As far as personal remedies go, remember we talked about real remedies and personal remedy. Now, as far as the seller is concerned, some of the personal remedies, meaning the kind that he or she has to go to court for, will include action for recovery of price, in which case you're suing the buyer to give you the money which they're supposed to have paid you as consideration, basically the price in that contract. And number two, action for non-acceptance. Okay, an action for damages for non-acceptance lies when the buyer refuses or neglects to accept the goods. The measure of damages is the loss resulting from the buyer's breach of contract. Okay, so think about this scenario. You are supposed to sell your, I don't know, watch or something for X amount of price. This person doesn't buy the watch, and then, they sort of just waste your time. And by the time they want to buy the watch, the price has already dropped as far as the market is concerned. So in that case, you realize if they had bought the watch at the time they were supposed to buy it, or if they had accepted the watch at the time they're supposed to accept it, you would have made some profit. Now that they've delayed, it means you couldn't even have sold it to somebody else because, you thought they were going to buy. So that becomes what you're suing for. That is the loss you incur because of their non-acceptance. The difference between the price you're supposed to sell that watch for and the price that is currently the market price. That is your loss. And that is what you're suing them for. And that is what action for non-acceptance can look like. So up to there, okay? That sort of marks the end of this lesson. If you have any question regarding anything we've talked about, actually, if you have any question regarding business, finance, or even legal aspects in relation to the field in which you are in, I don't mind. You can ask me that. If you can answer it, I'll answer it. If I can point you to the right direction, I will do that. So you can ask any question, be it through direct email or inbox or any of my social media platforms. I'm talking about Facebook, Zerite Network, or even YouTube or LinkedIn, my website, zeritenetwork.com, and I'll answer it. I'm Moses from Zerite Network, and it was nice to, be talking to you. I'll see you in my next course.